Hello and welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, Trent Clark, CEO of Leadershipity Serial Entrepreneur. I am a coach with Bloom Coach. So this is going to be a special day on the Winners Find a Way show. As most of you know, and as most people know me, I am the guy who spent over 13 years in professional baseball, coaching in 3 World Series. And my new book, Leading Winning Teams, will come out in August. Super excited about that with Wiley Business. But today is all about one of the founders of Bloom Growth Software, Todd Smart, a good friend of mine. Todd, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Man, I love this guy. Todd and I have gone back, our friendship back about 14 years ago when we met in Chicago. And actually, Todd, you were my forum trainer for the Entrepreneur Organization.
Yeah. It was a great day.
Great day.
Yeah.
Great day. And now here we are. We're sitting together as we just got done. Todd led a Bloom training software training day for a lot of coaches today and over the last week. And we're sitting in lovely Phoenix, Arizona, and wanted to take a chance to just sit down with Todd. This is a guy who, you're a Minnesota kid.
Originally.
Yep. Wife now of how many years?
17 years.
17 years, 4 kids. You're homeschooling your kids, and you're not just homeschooling the kids. You're homeschooling the kids worldwide and large because you're currently living on a ship, a catamaran, traveling
a boat. Yes.
A boat, and you're traveling the world with your family in tow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And while we sit in lovely Phoenix, his children are slumming it in Turks and Caicos. So, you know, it's a rough world that we're dealing with, and you're going to hustle back to the family.
Mm-hmm.
And now, how long till you'll set sail out of Turks and Caicos?
We'll leave on Saturday. We're on our way to Grenada for hurricane season, which starts on July 1st. So we've got some miles to put behind us.
Okay. And you'll want to be settled before hurricane season starts?
Before July 1st. For insurance, we have to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. So now, Todd, you have been a entrepreneur. You've done all these things. You've been one of the top facilitators and trainers in the entrepreneur organization, the Young Presidents Organization, YPO. Todd is a go-to guy for developing the top 3% of entrepreneurs in the world. As they develop into joining these organizations, they bring in Todd to learn the structure and how to maximize their value in what we call in the gym instead of the spa. When you join these organizations, you're going there to grow. So, man, for how many years now do you think your focus has been on growth? And I'm not talking about just growth in business. I'm talking about growth as a person, because I've benefited from your wise counsel along in my personal growth, and in my business growth. And many who have been in business, probably not always realizing, hey, I came to get some business growth, but I'm a whole heck of a better person now because of some things I learned along the way.
Yeah.
How long have you been in that game?
I've been really focused on professional and personal improvement for over 30 years, ever since I've been an entrepreneur. I became an entrepreneur within a couple of years of school, of university, and I've always been out there reading self-help, personal improvement, what's it like striving to do it better and find a better way. What I want to emphasize about my own journey is an enormous amount of failure along the way. I have 11 startups over the last 34 years, and mostly it's a story of failure with some successes sprinkled in there. And thank goodness a couple of successes can make up for a lot of failure.
Yeah.
But it's been a really humbling experience where I've had to get myself out of the way. Where when I was a younger entrepreneur in my 20s, I was looking at others for the reasons that I wasn't moving the ball forward or down the field.
Yeah.
And then had to go ahead and get real humble, starting in my 30s after some significant failure and find a better way. And if we could say, the essence of finding a better way for me was to get really clear on my strengths and all of my weaknesses and spend the majority of my time working on my strengths. I would say, back at 25-year-old book of the Focus on Your Strengths by Buckingham, was kind of a beginning stage of that.
Yep.
And then as I evolved as an entrepreneur, discovering kind of a value unlock that it looks like wow, if I just spend time on my strengths and I'm super humble about my weaknesses and I share that with folks around me, it provides an opening for them to step up and help me. And what I was doing mostly, when failing, was that I was pretending to be good at stuff I wasn't good at. And I don't know that it pushed people away, but it certainly didn't draw them in and provide an opportunity for them to help.
Yeah. Well, I love, as a former baseball guy, I really appreciate, and I felt this from the entrepreneurial thing too. I have 12 startups and a few successes, right? And in fact, the baseball thing is, if you're successful 30% of the time, you're a multimillionaire, right? And so you fail all the time. And, I always think back as I watch kids who struggle, they don't want to play baseball anymore. They're the parents are, oh my gosh, Billy's unhappy. Like there's a lot of failure. And I'm like, yeah, and I can't imagine, you as a major league player, coming back after your first bat and go, you know what, it's just too tough out there. I'm not going back. No, you're going to get 3 more at bats. We're going to figure it out. You're going to adjust and we're going to get to this guy. Right. And you got to stay with it. And so I think that kind of really set me up for entrepreneurship failure because I didn't know there was going to be so much. I really thought I would win more. And it's been a real struggle, but I love the quote from the 4 Disciplines of Execution, why we name the show what it is, which says winners, when shown data that they're losing, find a way to win. As we built up our firm at Leadershipity, I was we were making investments in companies, we were coaching teams, and I'm like, man, I need a software that backs the people that I'm having with impact with, so they get better visibility of how they're going to grow and double and even, surpass that, 10x and keep going. And man, I called you to get some counsel and the opportunity for me to partner and be a Bloom coach and use the software and learn what you've taught for years. It's just been such a game changer for us and for me personally, for how we invest in other things, how we look at companies, how we look at leaders, certainly has shaped, and you're going to see it in leading winning teams. I have a lot of Bloom education that's been passed on to me that I've seen from not only learning and training with Todd and his team, but from real world data that we get from clients. And I love the quote from the 4 Disciplines of Execution: winners, when shown data that they're losing, find a way to win. And I chose this to come along with you because you're one of those guys, right? I surround myself with people who know, man, this isn't working. I'm not figuring out. I've got some weaknesses here. How am I going to win doing this? Well, I'm going to find a way. I'm going to find the right who's going to help me. I'm going to find the right widget to sell, or we're going to tweak the widget to make it better for our clients. And you did that in the book business and how you delivered content for authors and marketing their books. And that's who I want to be around, because it's hard. It's hard out there, and it's really easy to show the losing behavior. It's really easy to blame, make excuses, quit, or worse, ignore the data. Like, oh, we're doing all fine. Like, didn't we lose $500,000 last quarter? Yeah, but it's all right. We're all going to get good. We don't need to change anything. And I've seen organizations do it.
Yeah. And
the beauty of the Bloom software is you just can't do it because it shows out like what's exactly happening in real time.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? I would say that with the Bloom software, just to position it correctly, or more precisely, is that there's a conversation that goes on that is a growth operating system, and that the software is like the track for your train. It's a foundational or a support system. It's not the thing that generates the value by itself. It's the relationship and the conversation between a coach, somebody that's on the outside but has experience, and a leadership team of a growth-oriented business. And that's where the real magic takes place. But there needs to be some organizing and some, a track for the train gets you from point A to point B in the most direct path possible, a nice straight line. And so, yes, it is great, but without the growth operating system that you're delivering successfully with leadership teams, the software doesn't make the big difference on its own. So,
yeah, I think it's a great analogy of the train, and I think that you have worked in hundreds of different businesses and with different leadership teams. And, recently for me, a lot of successes in accounting firm, healthcare. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a healthcare expert. They had leadership team members who studied that and did that. They drove the analytics into the software. The software just provided the tracks for that train to just keep humming and carve through the mountains and take it to that next level. And, with some really beautiful exits.
Yeah.
They're whoa, this train is worth a lot more now, right? This is a luxury train now. And that's a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun to come alongside and be a part of that. And I think that, when I think of people like you and me, I describe myself as a generalist. I'm a business generalist because I don't really sit down and have some depth. I probably have a lot of depth about professional baseball and a couple businesses that I've owned. I certainly have more, but because I've been in a lot of different areas, I don't know if I'm this expert in any given category, if that's fair.
Yeah. It's all right. You've got strengths that are in certain categories. Yeah. The stuff that comes up for me is how much innovation is really iteration and, benefiting from the great work of people that have come before us.
Yeah.
And I think that you and I are both experiencing that. You just don't have to, and I guess to be humble enough to simply work within other people's systems and to iterate. There's a book that is called All Great Artists Steal, which is, of course, an intentionally provocative headline. But but the point is, most innovation is iteration, and that's good enough in order for you to have all the success and to help just as many people in the world as you want to get busy helping. You don't have to go from 0 to 100 on your own. You don't have to be good at all of it. The being humble about the stuff that I'm good at and not good at has provided such an amazing opening for others to help me along the way. And then to have enough humility to work within other people's systems and to not know it all has also been quite wonderful. The person that I was when I felt like either I did know it all or that society wanted me to, so I was pretending to know it all, was a person that was difficult to contribute to. And almost all of my success has come through the support of others, where I'm a guy that can have ideas and flesh them out and enroll people in helping move those forward. But I don't stay on and project manage and see things all the way through to a finish. I end up becoming an obstacle to the project or initiative. And to just have the humility to over and over and over admit, like, hey, I'm not good at that. Hey, I don't have these answers. I need some help, has created an opening for others to step up, and high quality people, to step up and help. High quality people, I wasn't providing an opening in my relationship with them when I was a younger entrepreneur. Took a bunch of failure and the corresponding humility that comes with failure in order to, I guess, knock me down some and get me in a place where I was willing to ask for help. And I guess coming with that too is just really praising people or, whatever their love language is or their language of appreciation, but just like, being on a team and having it not be about me.
Yeah.
I've gotten to a place as an entrepreneur now and as a father and as a husband where I'm not interested in it being about me at all. I don't do hardly any podcasts and this type of thing we're doing right now. I'm not trying to be famous or well known, and actually the opposite. I want to help as many people as I can, but I don't want to be the face of the organization. And a lot of people would say, path to what they want includes having a large follower base and things like this. I think that there's hundreds of paths, and that the ones that we see that are succeeding with a lot of followers and fame or recognition are the ones that we see because they do have the recognition, this has been their path. But I think it's less than 10% of people's path that includes becoming well known. There's 10 times the people that become really successful and help lots of people, and you've never heard their name,
Yeah.
and they're behind the scenes, and they're not easy to find on the internet. And so that's just one path. And I'm more in the latter category where I don't seek to be known. And we've got a book coming out with the Bloom Growth Operating System, and it's not going to be my book, and we're not going to put my name on the cover of this stuff. And so much of it is a collection of ideas from all of the awesome Bloom Growth coaches that are going on, that it would feel to me a little disingenuous for me to be the name or the face of this, given how the hundreds of people that have contributed.
Yeah, I think that, a couple of things come to mind there, like, Stanley's the billionaire next door that no one really knows, who is consistently making good choices and planning, not interested in fame. I think the other side from my world is the influencer world's been fleeting. I mean, there's a, hey, I'm really popular and I've got this, and gone away very quickly. Like it's not as stable as maybe someone thought. And you certainly see that in athletics, where you are a very popular figure, and 2 years removed from the game, no one knows who you are. And it's like, whoa, like I used to, I don't know, I used to play over here. I'm like, yeah, that's cute. Like we don't know you, and so it's a little bit of a fleeting thing. I would say, one of your points about that humility of bringing people in, and I'd like to hear your experience on this. What I've seen is that when I've seen people that are really A players, and there's not that opening and room, they may recognize, like, I've got talent to really help over here, and I'm never invited in to come and bring some of this knowledge and experience. I should probably find somewhere where they'd like my experience and knowledge.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, did we just lose Jane? Because Jane's one of our best. And I'm like, oh, well, I've never asked Jane for anything. Because I don't know if you know or not, I'm kind of a big deal, and I'm not asking my team in to bring that. And good players, like they wanna play. And if they don't get that opportunity, they go find a place where they'll have greater impact. And their voice is heard. And I've seen a lot of good teams could become great teams, and they lost some of their best players. Have you seen that as you've gone along?
Yeah, well, my own experience, is just, and I think at the root of it is an unhealthy amount of ego that I've had in the past.
Yeah.
I did have some success early on, right out of college. I had a business that went from 0 to 85 employees in about the first 18 months.
Wow.
And I thought that I was the reason for it. And started to and I received a lot of press, and I was 24 and 25 years old, and I believed the press. And I would assume that business went through a really painful bankruptcy then in my late 20s. And if I had to blame something, I could point to external things. But now that I have the benefit of hindsight for a couple decades, I blame my own ego and know-it-all demeanor at that time, because it pushed people away rather than pulling them in at times when I needed other people's help. But I just couldn't see it for myself. And I would say, it's safe to say that I was difficult to work with at that place before having the humility that came with failure.
Yeah, I think that it is not just an athletic component. When you hear someone believing their press clippings, don't believe all the press clippings, and that's a huge thing for athletes. People start telling you, and athletics is a killer, on the ego, because 2 days ago you were the hero, and then last night you struck out with the bases loaded in the ninth, and you need to be traded. like the whole press just 180'd on you, in one moment. The town, and it's like, whoa. So it's very volatile. It's very fragile.
Yeah.
And but those successes, especially accumulate over some time, it's hard not to, you get fed that you are really something. And so I can imagine as a 24, 25-year-old man having so much impact with these. I employ a lot of people. That's a big deal. And I really value that. And whoever's heard the show, at Leadershipity, we always qualify the fact that when you have an employee base of 200 people, as a leadership team, you're making decisions for 800. There's an average of 4 persons in a family. And so as a leader, you're going out there going, hey, we got to make some tough decisions around here, and this is what's going to happen. That's going to impact 800 people. Like, cars, college, educations, private educations, food on the table. Like, it's all at potential risk because they were trained up to come and work.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not honoring that responsibility in a humble way, watch out, right? And so you're feeling this now at 29. And I felt this. I'll tell you how I felt this. I didn't really have a lot of press clippings as a coach, but like I certainly I had a chance to get a year. I had a year option on a contract, and the club didn't take it. And we just went to the World Series, and I was 27 years old, and I was in an identity crisis. No, I'm the coach. I'm the baseball guy. I'm the guy who makes everyone better. I make them stronger. I help them live their dream because this is what they've been dreaming about. And I prep them for exactly what's about to happen. And then they have all this success. And then they actually get to live the dream. Like, you're the 12-year-old kid running around the yard. It's the bottom of the ninth. Bases loaded. Here comes Clark. And now you're on the field in the World Series doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a part of that. And I'm becoming now that's an identity. And then they're like, hey, kid, you've done a great job. You need to go somewhere else.
Down the street. Yeah.
And I'm like, well, where would I go? Who am I now?
Yeah.
And it was like bad.
Well, you're doing that in your mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
Think about how ill-equipped kids are that are this top 1% to 3% coming up through the ranks. Everybody telling them how great they are, starting at the age of 12, 14, 16.
Yeah.
I think we're, as humans, really ill-equipped for that kind of recognition, and how hard it is for those athletes to keep their ego in check and any perspective on what's real. Must be really.
That's why I love Wooden. The definition of success, like you be the best you that you can be, right? Like it's about you creating that internal, because comparing yourself to anyone else is a lost deal.
Yeah.
It's a no-win deal. And yet, man, I mean, my pride, my ego, and if I think of my 5 worst moments of my life, regret, deep regret. And I did a TEDx talk on the pain exchange.
Yeah.
The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. You choose. That pain of discipline is acute. We work hard. We've worked hard for 3 days.
Yeah. And our clients are all going to value for that because we're disciplined about how we do that work. And that regret is chronic. We're going to go and we'll rest over the weekend, and next week we come back and we work hard and nothing, and we're better for it. And we're not going, we had long days in Phoenix. Like, we don't think about that. Mm-hmm. That was a short-term acute pain, just like hill running or anything else. You heal in 2 days. You're not sore. Yeah.
The chronic pain of regret, take me back to 17. It still hurts. I made bad decisions. I treat people poorly.
Yeah.
And that still hurts my heart. And when you think about, I can't take it back, and I've got to find some forgiveness for who that person was then, and I don't want to think it was me, but it's 5 moments, and all 5 of those big regret moments in my life were led by pride and ego.
Yeah, yep.
Everyone.
The good news is nobody else remembers these things.
Okay.
And
you don't think so?
No.
No.
None of us are as big of a deal as we think we are.
Oh yeah, that's probably true.
And that your internal dialogue around this is something that you can just transform in the moment through a choice.
Yeah.
Like, there doesn't have to be a process about everything.
How'd you work through that?
You can just choose to let stuff go. The failure, which we've touched on a bunch.
Yeah.
But also I started participating in some transformation education back when as I was coming out of that first big failure, which was soul crushing, but also financially devastating also. But the emotional bounce back from it was more difficult than the financial bounce back, which was completely unexpected. I assumed that was not even going to be a factor, and it turned out to be the biggest factor in the whole thing. I started participating at Landmark Education, which is a transformation organization. Yeah. Comes out of some things that were a little wonky, like the EST training in the 70s. But got packaged up pretty nice into a consumer-friendly education, and it was eye-opening for me. It was concepts about myself and about my relationships to others that I never had access to before. Epiphany or aha moments, if you will. And then pair that, I went through a rediscovery phase in my, for a year or two in my late 20s, early 30s, where I had exponential growth, and, but I was really open to things at that moment due to the failure. And like I mentioned, the books about strengths and weaknesses, and starting to consider that I didn't have to, improve my weaknesses, that I could leverage my strengths and be humble, and other people would come in and help me through projects where I had weaknesses.
Yeah.
That all together is a concert of things that made a big deal. Also, when I was really open and rebounding at that time too, I explored all kinds of wonky things, just weird things that I then didn't take on.
Yeah.
Not everything that we come across in our path to growth should stick, because you have to explore the boundaries of it, and you can take or leave that stuff. You don't have to take everything that's out there.
I really appreciate that. I went through Landmark also, and I won't forget the fact that I had a personal position against victimhood. I no tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, it's up to me. I was reading all the powerful, I think I can self-talk. And, here I am finding myself as this 27-year-old, woe is me, identity crisis. And I go to Landmark and realize I'm running this racket, right? In my mind about
yourself.
On myself, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm being the victim guy, the very thing that I've always said that I just won't tolerate.
Yeah.
I'm running it on me, right? And I'm like, oh, this is a bad look. The whole thing is just got to
The beauty of insights like that is that your recovery from them does not have to be incremental.
Yeah.
You can decide and transform it in the moment, and the next moment you can have it be exactly what you want it to be.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I was listening to Iron Man. What's the actor? I forget the actor's name. Robert Downey Jr. Thank you. Yeah. And he was talking about the addiction. Mm-hmm. And I went through programs. I went through this.
Is drug addiction?
Yes. Okay. As a young man. Yeah. And the drug addictions. And then, he's like, you think, you could hit rock bottom. And probably everyone thought it was my rock bottom. And then one day I just said, that's it. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be this anymore. I'm just committed to, I can't be that person anymore.
Yeah.
And, and people say, can you turn the page on that? Like, you don't ever have to go back in the other page of that book. Like, it's a new chapter. Yep. And, you're an author. I'm an author, right? Like, whatever the 7th chapter said before, like, you don't have to go back. Like, it's a new chapter. And I have seen a lot of people, and it's staggering, people. And I really have a lot of honor for people who are 30 years clear of addiction. And everyone like, man, I remember when this dude was 21 years old, and it was, whoa. And it's just, whew.
I have a deeper appreciation for how different we all are. Brain chemistry, I guess, is the category, right? When you talk about endorphins or dopamine or oxytocin or whatever, it is. There's a couple, 4 main categories of brain chemistry. And we're all wired so completely different. And once I took that on, it is the foundation for being empathetic to other people, not seeing things the way that I see them. I did spend, my 20s for sure, and maybe in my early 30s, assuming that the experience going on in my own head was the same experience going on in somebody else's head. And a good friend of mine who's a doctor was talking about addiction with the pain drugs, the oxycodone, right? Yep. Related drugs.
Yep.
And which I think is similar brain chemistry wise to heroin, right?
When mixed with alcohol, it's a heroin effect. Yep.
And he said, hey, well, because I had gone through a surgery from a bicycle accident that I was on, and And I was telling him how I didn't like these at all. They, made me constipated and took away my appetite. I just didn't want to take these pain drugs. And he said other people take their very first dose of it and they're addicted from their very first dose. That our brain chemistry is so unique that, and that is a foundation for not judging others. You don't know. I didn't know what's going on in somebody else's brain chemistry. And so to judge somebody who's got some drug addiction, and that was never an issue for me, is hypocritical.
Yeah.
I believe, because you don't know what it is, what the experience is inside their head or inside their body chemistry.
Oh.
And I just want to have empathy or sympathy for all the differences that we naturally have that we're born with, rather than judge the person is not the first place I go.
Yeah. Yeah. I think from my extremely judgmental young adult days, I mean, again, that's an ego driver right there, like without doubt. Man, I'd really come, because I'm a faithful guy, like I really came to this premise in my 30s that someone in a higher power is going to judge and I'm not qualified. That's all I knew is I'm not really qualified.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I should just leave it to that person or that, deity, whatever you believe, right? And I just thought, like, man, and that gave me a bunch of freedom.
Sure.
By the way, because I was, if I made that judgment, I also felt upheld that I had to uphold that position in the standard of, that I would never model something differently than that judgment. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of pressure behind being a judgmental person, it turns out, right? Because if you're going to stoke that fire, you always have to keep it running.
Yeah.
And so it's a dangerous place. But I want to come back to Bloom.
Yeah.
Because these top 2% businesses in the world, they've had success and they may be struggling now. And, you've been referred to all these top 2% companies to, like, Todd, we want to go to the next level. And we are interested in growth. We think we have the team. Mm-hmm. We think we have the product. We think, we have, things going in the right way, or we're well aware that a couple aren't, and we need your help. Why do people say this Bloom growth system and Coach Todd is for me?
Oh, well, I don't know. Let's take the Coach Todd thing out of it. But, a proven system, rather than trying to come up with it on my own. Something that where smarter people have come before me and laid some groundwork for what works, heavily common sense based, right? Just a simple execution and communication system that gets most of its results through prioritization and simplification. And you think, like, well, how common sense is that? Of course, we should prioritize. Nobody has time to do it all, or right. Resources. But most organizations don't keep it simple enough and don't prioritize effectively. And with what we're doing with the business coaching is also really growth oriented. So it's just for organizations that want to grow their folks, the individual growth in order to grow their organization, that they're into investing and giving to the folks around them rather than taking. I think that, relationships are a giving game. They're not a taking game.
It's so interesting because I think everyone's always wanted success. They've wanted growth, they've wanted development. And I think back like 30 years, and I don't know if companies were investing in their people, recognizing that, wow, I've got all these people. We only grow through the people. And it seems so natural that, like, hey, if we want to grow the company, we'll have to grow the people. Mm-hmm. It just feels natural now. Yeah. But it wasn't back then. I don't think that was top of mind. That I don't know. Maybe
not as much. I think that there were companies that got it. If you go back 50 years ago, that they're ahead of their time and really understood. But when people talk about dated approaches to being in business, I think they're talking about the transition from the command and control to a more servant leadership approach. And we could talk a lot about servant leadership or putting others first or whatever words you want to use about this. but really it's having an abundance mentality, and helping everybody around you win. Like the definition of being a great leader and manager of people, I believe, is show me the people above and beside and below you in your organization. And when the people above and beside and below you are winning, and you're hanging out there in the middle of that, I'm like, well, that's what great leaders look like when they're winning, is the people around them are winning. There are no great leaders that can claim to have sustainable success where the people around them are not winning also. This
Yeah.
is, and so if you want to simplify like a servant leadership or an approach to winning, ask yourself, how can I help those above, beside, and below me step up and win? What could I do? What kind of resources? What kind of training? What kind of support? And get busy helping, sometimes literally doing stuff and helping, not just talking a big game, but getting in there, finding resources, rolling up your sleeves, the whole like helping in the most literal, straightforward, simple, bold ways that you can help others. Get busy helping the people above you and beside you and below you inside your organization win. And the same thing within your family, and the same thing within your friendship circle. And get busy investing in relationships. Life is all about relationships. As you read through any of these happiness studies, doesn't matter which one you go after, they start saying stuff about community and relationships and a sense of being or belonging. And so I believe that health and wealth are just vehicles to spend more time with my relationships. I do want health and wealth, but mostly it's so that I can live a long time and have the resources to hang out with the people that I love in the world. And so it's all about, if it's all about relationships, if that's what life means, and I believe this to be true, then it's really important that I get busy helping all the relationships around me win.
You know what?
Giving. It's a life is a giving game. It is not a taking game.
You know, when I think about the winning teams that I've been a part of,
Mm-hmm.
they're demanding. Like the standards are high. It's not easy.
But they provide the resources for you to win.
That's
At
right.
the same time, they can be demanding, but the reason they can be demanding is like, well, we know how to help you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's not complicated. But this is where I think people get lost. It's not complicated. In fact, it's simple. But people thinking simple is easy is an error in my factor, right? Because, well, here's what I found. I have found that if it's going to take 25% more effort on our part to be number one and to be a part of a winning team, people have no problem with it to be known as, like, I don't know if you know or not, but I play over here with the Bloom team and we win. We win a lot. Work really hard. Not easy to win there. And you've probably seen this in your clients. A lot of my clients, as I see them grow in their success, the team members refer some of the best team members and bring them in. And the team members also deflect them and their friends who they know couldn't uphold the standard. I just had this happen with a client last week. And it was like, hey, I saw you with your cousin Earl down at the mall. Really nice guy. He goes, yeah, he just lost his job. He's like, hey, do you think he'd like to come over here and be a part? He's like, Earl can't really come over here and probably contribute like that, but I'd probably look somewhere else. This is a first cousin. This is a close friend, and it's not in malice. It's that he understands what it takes to be a part of this team, and that's not where this other young man is at today. And obviously, I'm using those names in fictitious here, but that's great. It's a protection and a layer that I understand what it is. I know my friends, I know my family, and I don't want that to reflect on me if I were to bring them into our environment and our team and how we work together and how a cohesive unit this is, and then have my friend or family member break part of that up because they may not understand that yet. They may not have had that experience yet, and they haven't worked in that environment well. And that tells me a lot about a team.
Yeah.
a lot.
Absolutely.
And so it's fun that I also think there's a difference from being proud of the organization I'm with than being prideful.
Sure.
And so when you see teams win, and I love what you have to say about, because I'm a goal guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I learned this from you, and it's in Leading Winning Teams too. It's in the book, that everyone wants to strive and get their goal, and that's really important. In teams, hey, we set goals. Let's make our goals. But man, through the system, we learn process, and we learn good processes, and our team members bring the best processes because they're experts. They know, and they're trial and error, and they're figuring it out, and they're tweaking their systems to make them better. And then they hit their goals, and they've built process to repeat that goal again and again. I always think of like the cement staircase in front of the house. The cement staircase goes the first step, and that's a solid piece of cement. And then the next step, and that's a solid piece. And, you get to the top stairs, you're never falling through 7 layers of cement. The cement could go bad in 1 layer, but you've foundationally built process each time. And so when you look at the foundation, you built process and solid.
Mm-hmm.
It's solid, and you win again and again, over and over. And you taught me that. And I thought, man, that's exactly what good teams do.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't look back like, oh, remember when we had that goal? Yeah, we surpassed that goal, and we still maintain that level and keep building on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have one of our family wisdom quotes that we go through with the kids from time to time that says that goals are for people that want to win once. Process is for people that want to win over and over and over. And I think a lot of leaders out there that maybe are successful, but not as successful as they could, are more goal-oriented than they are process-oriented. Process isn't very sexy, for sure. Maybe it's the least sexy part of being in business, but it is the sustainable piece. Yeah. And it also allows delegation. It allows people to get out of the grind because you figure out the process, and then you can delegate it and train others or systematize or automate, whatever it is. Yeah. But good, solid processes set people free. And, it's just like the coaching work that you and I both do, that's the regular growing of the business is something that deserves a ton of energy from people. And the goal setting is important because you're building an ideal future with these things. But the regular growing of the business and measuring things on an hourly, daily, weekly basis is really critical. And that gives you the financial and time freedom to then work on building a better organization through the other goals. But you can't just be a goal machine without a regular growing of the business obsession.
Yeah.
And that dovetails into process. I believe process is the thing that sets a person free for continued sustainable success.
Well, and I also think, I can speak a little bit to different strengths on the team.
Yep, absolutely. That circles back to the beginning of how we started this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how ego gets in the way. As your new book takes off and you get the accolades that are coming and the bigger speaker engagements that come with being successful with a widely published book, it'll be something to keep top of mind for you, is to stay grounded.
Not believe my press clippings.
Not believe your press. Continue to prioritize your relationships first amongst, over anything that might be like sugar is to nutrition. I think this, this fame and ego and recognition is to really being a genuine friend.
Yeah, well, what's good for me is I surround myself with people like you who can keep me humble. Right?
Well, people that are willing to to call a spade a spade.
There's this thing in sports, and it's everywhere, I think, but it is I believe in confidence. Confidence to arrogance is a very thin line.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. We do end up being a mirror and somebody who talks straight to the folks. And sometimes we're successful at cutting through that clutter.
Yeah.
one of the beautiful things about being a leadership team growth coach, though, is sometimes the owner of the business or person that is a catalyst for the success is running around with this ego. We can help them get what they want out of their business, kind of regardless of the owner, as we get direct access to their leadership team. And it works.
Yeah.
And I can love on that person even when they are carrying around their big ego and their shit doesn't stink in their own opinion. I can still love on that entrepreneur and I can help them through their team.
Yeah.
And it's part of the reason that I don't do executive coaching anymore and I only do leadership team coaching, is that I found the executive coaching was often working with the person that was the problem, and I couldn't get work done for them.
As the Bloom Systems engaged folks, they've been given a voice, they've been given a platform to really showcase, like, hey, I'm a really good contributor here.
Yeah.
And you start seeing it and going, how come this person was never considered? Like, this is, you've got an all-star here, and they may have not even known it.
It does separate the folks that are the stars from the posers within an organization. Transparency and facts will bring this out. And then almost always, as the stereotype goes, or exactly as you'd expect, the posers are the ones that are playing the politics game or some bureaucratic game or a blame game, or they're in the habit of the most sophisticated rationalizations, justifications, and explanations, which is just the way that smart people make excuses. And, like, I love the transparency. I love the facts. And let's get busy building winning teams with people that fit this, rather than the people that are playing, I call them like playing business games. And a lot of it is fear-based and meant for self-preservation, which often we refer to as CYA, right? But that's self-preservation based on some kind of fear. They feel like if they're their most authentic self, and if they don't try hard to promote themselves and look good at every turn, that they're not going to get everything that they can. Often run around with some imposter syndrome or insecurities that they're working extra hard to cover up. And the work to cover it up makes it even more obvious.
Yeah, I love the visibility. I just call it visibility.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is it really gives a person a chance to shine if they'll understand how they get into the system, what's valued, clarity on roles and responsibilities. Like, wow, like I'm being measured on these roles and responsibilities, and I'm really, knocking these things out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
And as most employees may not always understand that you're only being judged on the role you're in. Like, you may be a great vice president of sales today, but right now you're being the district salesperson at this site, and like that's only the measurement we're looking at. And you have to prove yourself at that level. And it kind of reminds me the visibility of like the prisoner, like someone who's really good at crime. I mean, like, there's really a lot of deep thought and strategy into this crime, and you're like, wow, if you were really following these other processes the way you created this in an above the law way, you would be super successful. Like, you don't need to do this illegal behavior to be successful, because your thinking and your process, the way you're working, is great. It's just you're using it in a way that's below the line. And I think this really shows somebody a way to be really great, and it's pretty cool when it shows out. And it will uncover the posers. It really will. And I do think, I've told you probably in the past, I think some people have called me in the past because they know that.
Yeah.
And it would be really easy if Trent uncovered our posers. We think he is, and then he's going to, through the system, it's really going to be laid out. And that internal pressure is real when all the people are contributing and there's visibility on their contribution, and when someone's not. It becomes very evident.
And it can be one of the things when we start working with clients doing the growth operating system, we we assert there's about 15 ways that your organization could be stuck. And nobody is stuck in the majority of these ways. They're in business and succeeding to some degree. But when they start work with either one of us, there's 1 to 3 things that are underneath all of the excuses and the explanations. And through asking great questions, we're leading them, right? We're not consultants with answers. We're coaches with questions.
Yeah.
And we ask the right questions. They come to their own conclusions. We uncover, or they do, in their own answers, these 1 to 3 things that are systemic. They're underneath, they're layers deep in the organization. Once discovered, how to get unstuck or undo that thing is often quite a common sense move that takes guts. Courage is a much better word. And, once you see the thing, then it takes courage to be in action, because there's a reason they weren't in action like 4 years ago when this thing got them stuck, and they were hoping for a couple years that it wasn't going to have them stuck. But now it's obvious. And then we ask the right questions. We get to the root cause of these things. And once it's laid bare, you're like, hey, there's these 2 things. Likely, when you do the common sense thing and have courage and transform these 2 things, your organization is going to naturally start growing again.
Yeah. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Denial's pretty powerful. You can do it for a while. You can deny it for a while.
Well, and I think that what I hear you saying is that subconsciously they kind of know that this is an area we've been kind of maybe, kind of pushing to the side. We don't really kind of address that. And now, because I've never had anyone.
This goes back to hope is not a strategy.
That's right.
You're hoping it's going to handle itself.
Yeah. And I've never had.
And I don't have to step up and be courageous and do this. Yeah.
And no organization I've ever had tested early in the gate said 3 out of 3 on all 15. We're just on all cylinders. If they're going to be real about it, I've never had anyone do it.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a great uncovering. Let me finish with this, Todd. If as organizations continue to grow, and we're doing this hyper learning, right? We get all these organizations and we get all the coaches who just come in and bring our experiences back. And, it reminds me so much of professional sports. You've been coached by the best in the world and you get all these experiences, and then everyone leaves their ego at the door and you come into a room and you're like, how do we just have the greatest impact? How do we build teams just better?
Yeah.
And now listen, when you go out, there's a lot of confidence again, right? In the individual world, we still got to be confident. I don't want to say arrogant, but confident. And it's really this hyper learning level. But if you found a team today, it's tough. Economic conditions, people still coming out of pandemic. There's been factors that have played and wreaked havoc on some organizations. What would your best advice to a team who feels really stuck today, who feels and maybe has been going the wrong way? I recently had this experience of a call, and it was 48 million, 41, 36, 29, and we're not changing anything because I think we're a little bit of hope is a strategy, right? And they're stuck. What would you tell those folks today?
I would say, well, if you're not already really humble about the situation that you're in, get humble about it. And in that process, find a system that is proven to work for others. So in those moments is not the time to start trying to invent a system on your own. A system is just a process, a proven process, a system of questions that are proven to get you through this and uncover those few areas. But don't try to make it up on your own. I think that's an ego-based thing. There are a ton of smart people that have come before all of us and figured out a simpler, better way to get unstuck. And please get your ego in the right place and follow what's worked for others. Get yourself engaged in a system that has been proven over time. That's all. You and I aren't inventing or coming up. We're iterating on the backs of other people that have come before us that are radically smart and have had a ton of success. 100%. And in this iteration, rather than creating from zero, there's so much power. So get yourself with something and with somebody who's been there, done that, approaching this in a way that has been approached hundreds or thousands of times before. The chances of succeeding skyrocket rather than feeling all alone and trying to figure out something that's 100% new. It's unlikely that what you come up with, if you're going to do 100% new, is going to be as good as something that's already out there. And don't let your ego, lead the way and like it has to be all your ideas. Get to a place as an individual and as a leader that you are so excited about leveraging other people's experience and ideas and winning methodologies and approaches. That's your shortest path towards getting what you want out of life and out of business. Follow other people's success paths. You do not have to blaze your own trail.
I love it. Another great episode of Winners Find a Way with Todd Smart. I think there's some, the name's a little wisdom, man. Like, is this right there, right? So we're all getting the best of Todd Smart. So thank you so much for joining us on Winners Find a Way every Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, live on LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, and Leadershipity YouTube Live. And our podcast can be found anywhere. And please go out there, click on the link on Leading Winning Teams. You can pick up the book in bulk at Barnes & Noble. Super excited about all the offerings we have there, and check that out below. And if you want to know more about Bloom Growth, Todd, bloomgrowth.com.
Or bloomgrowthcoach.com.
And bloomgrowthcoach.com. And you want to find Todd Smart, he's on LinkedIn. Where else can they find you if they want you?
Yeah, I'm intentionally not that findable, but yeah, LinkedIn is good. I am on
that's
LinkedIn,
good.
I'm right now at a stage in life where I'm really focusing on family. I have 4 kids between 12 and 16 years old, and my wife and family, we were sailing and exploring the Caribbean as you open this up with.
Yeah.
But thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.
This was great. And congratulations on your book. Really exciting milestone about having your experience in life memorialized in this way. And I completely believe that this is a catalyst for a whole next level of success around you and your organization.
I appreciate that. I mean, Todd, a lot of impact. You're going to see, pick up my book and you're going to see Todd Smart, like wisdom and bloom, throughout it from, a lot of my experiences that I've been able to just sponge up along the way. Like he said, I think Todd, you said it really well. I don't pretend like I'm some brilliant, creator of great ideas. I have to read and study a lot, and I listen. And again, I think it's part of that, surrounding yourself with great people out there. So for everybody, hey, next time we'll see you on Winners Find a Way.
Thanks for listening in.